let's see, legal, financial, marketing, branding, business development, personal development, all these different things that we have to learn in our business, wear all the hats, everything. Well, that's just too much to discuss in one episode of Soapbox Wisdom. So today on our episode, we're going to be talking about the business development side of our businesses and what we need to do to land in the right places maybe. Hi, I'm Christine Rothdeutsch and
I'm Barbara Menino, and we are here to discuss, as Christine said, what's the best path for us at any given time with our business development initiatives.
yes, there's just so many choices out there. Well, I should say, I know for myself when I first started my business, I was like, that's okay. I'll hang out my shingle and tell people what I do and I'll get the business. And it didn't happen the way I planned. So it was a couple years in before I had my first business coach. And that was a little odd in how the whole thing happened. But I know there's so many options out there to learn what we have to be doing to be, profitable, to be successful, to really get out there and help people. But how do we make those decisions? Uh, I know one thing I do with my clients and in my talks is one to first tell people, make a list of what you already have, because sometimes we already have access to something that can help us in the moment. So the next time something comes, into view, we know we don't need that. But today we really wanted to get into I guess the kind of levels of business development and why we tend to be drawn to some and not others. Is that am I on the right track, Barbara?
You are, and what sort of made me chuckle a bit was when you said when you started your business, you felt that you could put out a shingle and the clients would come.
Sidebar though, for a moment, Barbara. For you young listeners out there, hanging out a shingle
Oh,
in the old days, that meant you go out on the street and you hang your shingle out like the doctor's shingle or the attorney's shingle. Just wanted to, let the young listeners know what that term means.
very good point. I think, and this might be for the older listeners too, I'm not sure, that's kind of the field of dreams syndrome where build it and they will come. To your point, and to follow on that, I know as a writer, when I started my business, I knew I had cultivated my craft professionally for years and years in the newspaper business and the mainstream media and in big corporations. But there was more to being on my own than just my craft. It's learning that you have to work on the business, not just in the business. And sometimes it takes a while to understand that need. And once you start understanding that need, that's when you become acutely aware of your inbox and all the people, to your point, Christine, knowns and lesser knowns and totally unknowns who are writing to you, telling you that you need their services. So the quandary comes is picking the right person or the right company to go to fill in the gaps you need to grow your business.
Right. And it's not just the inbox, it's all the social media platforms. What do you see going through your feed? Who are you hearing? I know there's a lot of summits going on all the time, so you're attending those and there's so many different speakers. Maybe you belong to a big networking organization that brings in, outside speakers. A lot of them don't have outside speakers, but some of them do. And maybe you're hearing of a new coach or program or something like that from somebody that you've never heard of, but wow, you're just mesmerized by them. And wow, oh my goodness, yeah, that's what I need. Oh, does it cost money? Oh, that's fine. I might be, okay, so I'm getting a little light here, but seriously, we sometimes we just get drawn in, because they are just so good at their craft when they're speaking. Uh, and it's hit and miss though for people who are not in those situations that maybe they have some of the same skills to help us, but we don't see them as much. And I think on this area of our discussion here today, it comes to team. When somebody has a business large enough that they have a nice budget, that they have a team of people that they can hand off a lot of the marketing, uh, we see them more. We see them in a different light, in a different frame. But does that always mean they are that much more qualified to help build somebody's business than somebody that doesn't have a team? Um, yeah.
Well, probably not necessarily, right? But what you just mentioned about them having a team of people to whom they can delegate, which perhaps gives them more opportunity to be active, alive, and
Mhm.
visible on email, on social, of all things from Facebook to LinkedIn to Insta to TikTok. It certainly makes the case for the smaller business person allocating enough time in their time management schedule to get visible, because you darn well have to captivate an audience to even be able to throw your hat in the ring and compete.
Mhm.
That evens the playing field some if you're a service provider.
Yeah. Yeah, so important, as you said, to captivate, the audience, and it's so true, and I've spoken with, several people recently about speaking. There's events going on, and I know you have a specific coach, Barbara, for speaking, and I think a lot of times people don't give it enough, weight to say, "I really have to hone that skill if I really wanna grow my business." They wanna discount that speaking is so effective, and it's sad.
Well, to that point, there are a lot of speaking gigs that one can get, and especially when you're starting out, that are non paid gigs.
Mhm,
And there is always the excitement or the desire to get a gig that will put some cash in your pocket,
mhm,
that just doesn't afford the pleasure of speaking. However, cash comes in many different ways, and that visibility is actually worth its weight in gold. And there are payoffs down the road. So, as an entrepreneur, you mustn't forget that aspect.
yeah. So, I know previously to this conversation, Barbara, we had been talking about the glitz and glamour of some businesses out there, and that people are drawn to that glitz and the glamour, and I know we were talking about Tony Robbins earlier, and that people are drawn, and what would somebody mention something to you recently about having gone to one of his events, and you had a weird feeling about it?
So, Tony Robbins is pretty phenomenal. I think that's common knowledge. I have known people who have gone to his 3-day retreats and such and have been blown away by the event. Um, and I hadn't really thought seriously about Tony Robbins in a long time, but someone I know and someone who I've worked with had mentioned that she went to a 2 or 3 day event sponsored by Tony Robbins and that it was phenomenal.
Mhm.
And my first thought was, oh my, how would I fit that into my schedule? That's pretty busy at the moment. And my second thought was, OMG, what am I missing? The good old FOMA comes and hits you hard. And as a consumer, you think you should be right in the middle of
Mm.
something like that because it's beneficial, you're growth minded, and it will help you grow both as a person in your life and as a person in your business.
Well, that's the intention of events like that. But I wonder what the numbers look like for the amount of people that attend things like that and come home and say, "Oh my god, it was just fantastic. Oh my god, it was so inspirational. Oh, I got so." A month or 2 later, is anything different? I I just see it all the time with these big events. Yes, while you're there, oh my god, it feels so good. Oh, there's so much information, and then nothing happens. Well, then really, was it worth it?
Well, the interesting thing about that is that in order to really make any huge event like that work, or any small event, even joining a networking organization, the only way to make it work is to actually participate and execute on what you've learned.
Mhm.
And I think it's human nature. Often we get distracted. We have other things that we deem more important. We put those before things, practicing of the um, education and information that we've acquired and ourselves, and we can undercut the value of those programs.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing too. Going to a 3-day event and spending 3 days and coming home and not following through is one thing, but then when you join a 12-month program, and you're in it and you're learning so much and then not implementing, that is a real disservice to yourself. So when I think if I'd like to just go over a little bit about some recommendations on what you need to look for in programs before you jump in. And one of them is your time. Before you jump into a big program, look at how many deliverables there are, how many sessions are there, and sometimes, I know sometimes there's a lot that they're delivering on, and it's like putting all this value in it, but you have to ask yourself, is it too much? It sounds awesome, but again, do you have the time to absorb it all, to attend all the sessions, and then put it all into action? So, again, look at your time and how much time you have to put into the program, really, when you're looking at these things.
I also think as some people need more hand holding than other people, and so it may well be important to find a program where there's a lot of one-to-one
Mm,
opportunity, a program in which people can take you along in your learning so that you must demonstrate accountability. either from week to week or month to month, that is often very helpful. And that may be another one of the criteria that you have to look at when you're choosing a program.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, so it's really, be aware of also other options that are out there. Uh, just because the big names, the big glitzy and glamorous options are in front of you, I'm thinking if you stop and take a look in your inbox, take a look in your own backyard, well, maybe not your backyard, but your neighborhood or your town or whatever, you might find some other options that would serve you better at the time.
What did I tell you once that way back when I was dating? And
You always have a story, Barbara. What is it?
I always, well, I'm a writer. What do you want from me? But way back when I was dating my husband, and the family could see that I was falling for him, and I was on the precipice of moving into New York City, and I was looking to that fabulous big world out there. And I remember my Aunt Teresa said to me, sometimes what you're looking for is right in your own backyard. So I couldn't resist telling you that story when you threw in the word backyard. But it is an important point to consider
Mm.
when you're evaluating the route you should take to either be coached or as a consumer when you're looking for coaching.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah. So we want our listeners to take something away from this. So again, as just reiterating some of the things that Barbara just said, that we just said, before jumping into something that seems like this is it, this is the one, this is the program. Check out all the deliverables. Check out how much time is going to be required, and do you have that time to put into it that you're going to benefit from everything? And sometimes programs that don't take more than a year. Understand that too. Sometimes you do have to be in the same thing multiple years to get the full benefit. Absolutely. It's like, but you want to make sure that at every month that you're in it, that you are able to implement a good portion of what you're learning. We didn't even mention about budgets and fees, though, did we, Barbara?
Budgets and fees are
Um,
important. And remember, at different times in your business, you have different cash flow, you have different revenue. So you have to be realistic and take a look at that budget piece before you jump in and get in over your head.
mm,
Being thoughtful about all of this stuff, being aware of all the options out there from big names to smaller names, knowing where you are in your business and the money that you have to spend. These are all essential thoughts. And you probably can come up with more thoughts out there in the audience. And once again, as we always tell you, we'd love to hear from you
yes.
and hear what you have to say on a subject such as this.
Yes, please leave your comments in the chat. We'd love to hear from you.
So I guess that's going to conclude today's episode of Soapbox Wisdom. And we look forward to seeing you